13 days of spooky, spooky, and I'm still standing tall. Froggy Friday riveting through it all. Georgiesgorgeousgifts wrapped up in black and orange glee. Tony's here to close this out, so come
everybody, and welcome back to Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts. Today is quite a special one for me because it's the final day of my 13 days of Halloween collaboration with Lula from Nerd Goblin Art. We finally got to day 13, and although it's been tough, it's been so much fun. So today I have two projects that I want to share with you because I have the new Rapido from ELI-CHEM that I'm dying to try out, and I found the perfect project for it that included a frog. And as part of the project, we're going to be turning this little frog ornament into a silicone mould and casting it with aquacast. So this one's got a bit of a backstory to it because this little frog that I bought it on the premise that it was an actual frog mould, not a little frog ornament. That's me not reading the description properly. I have at least one item from every Teamy order that turns out like this. So I thought, why not turn it into a mould myself? So here we are. So this is the 15-minute demold brush on silicone by Diction. So I've weighed up my silicone in grams, equal 1:1 ratio. Because we're going to be doing this in 3 layers, I mixed up 15 grams of A and 15 grams of B. I mixed it for just over a minute or so, and then I started to pour all over this frog. Now the idea with this, and the best way I found, is to pour over the top of the piece, allow it to run down, and then just keep putting it back on top, just scooping it back from the bottom and then continuing to just put it back until it gets to that really thick sticky stage. Now this does take a good 5 minutes or so, so I will speed this bit up for you because yeah, we do this 3 times, but I am literally just coating the whole thing. The first coat, I'm making sure that I get in all the grooves and the gaps, because in previous moulds, if you don't do this with this particular silicone on the first try, you end up getting like little pockets where the resin then gets into. This is a bit of a tedious job, as you can see. I'm just continuously grabbing it from the bottom and then putting it back on top, making sure that the entire thing is covered. This is in fact the new formula, and it's a lot thinner than the previous one, which I actually preferred. I preferred the fact that it was really, really thick, but apparently other people didn't. Now what I have found with this 15-minute cure silicone is that the temperature of your room really makes a difference to the length of time it takes to cure. I mean, I know it usually does, but with this one in particular, it really does make a difference. My heating was on about 23 and this cured in about 12 minutes. I did one the other day and that took over half an hour, 40 minutes to cure. And the only thing I can think that's different is purely the temperature of the room. So you can see here that it's now getting really thick and gloopy, but to save waste, I'm just continuing to scrape it off the bottom and to keep putting it on top of this frog. And then I left this to cure. So after about 25 minutes, I then decided that I was going to pour the next layer. So here we go again, exactly the same process. I mixed up the same amount and I'm just pouring it again over his head, only this time it actually has something better to grip onto, so it doesn't run off as fast or as much. So again, I've sped this bit up for you because you don't want to see the whole process once again. But yeah, it went on a lot easier this time. Then about half an hour after that, it was time for the third pour. Now this time I've actually left it go quite thick in the cup before I decided I was going to pour it onto the mould. And you can see it really is thick and gloopy. That's just exactly how I wanted it. Again, less waste, and to make sure that I filled in all them thinner bits that I could see would potentially be an issue when pouring it with resin. So here we go again, one last time, and again I have sped this bit up for you. But this is the last layer. And then I left this all to sit for a good hour, hour and a half. So it's ready to demold. You can even see my hands are excited. Yeah, and it was looking good so far. So I'm just peeling this off the plastic lid And then I'll just grab a pair of scissors and I'm going to trim off all the edges so that we haven't got any of that scraggly excess bit around the mould. Now there was still some weight to this mould, you know, considering it's only 3 layers. I mean, it wasn't even half the bottle. But yeah, it was looking good so far and quite sturdy. There didn't seem to be any gaps. Now to get the silicone off the bottom of the mould, I'm just using these cuticle cutters just to go round the edges. This is the perfect tool for doing this, as it literally goes through it like butter and slices it off really cleanly, exactly where you need it to be on the edge of the mould. So after going all the way around and getting the excess bottom layer off, it was ready to demould. So again, I didn't even know whether the silicone was going to stick to this type of plastic because I didn't think to try it out beforehand. But it was coming out of the mould, no problem. I did have one issue though, is where the frog had curled his fingers together, the silicone had gone in between and made like a ring around his fingers, which then prevented me from being able to get the mould off. So I just got the little cuticle cutting tool and snipped off just that little area in between his fingers. And I did this on both sides because this was the issue on the other side as well. So far, so good. Now it was time to cast the mould. Whenever I'm casting a new mould for the first time, I like to use an eco pour, Jesmonite or Aquacast, just for ease and speed. And the good thing with this silicone rubber is that you can pour less than an hour after demoulding. There's no other silicone that you can do that with. You need to really leave it for 24 hours, but this one specifically said that you can use between 1 and 2 hours after demoulding, which is absolutely fabulous. So I grabbed my Aquacast. The Aquacast I'm using is the Aquacast Turbo from ELI-CHEM, and this is my go-to eco pour. So I weighed up 200 grams of powder and 80 grams of water and started to mix the two together. I did in fact pop it into a bigger pot purely because 200 grams was just too much to mix up in a cup and knock any lumps in. So after pouring the majority of the water in and giving it a good stir, I'm thinking about what colours to add. So ELECHEM had kindly sent me 3 colours of the resi-tint Max to try. So I thought, I wonder if it works with the Aquacast. So I did attempt to colour the Aquacast with this resi-tint, but unfortunately it's for the resin from ELECHEM rather than eco pours. But you only find out these things by trying them. Although this doesn't work in Aquacast, I mean, look at that colour, it's stunning. This is the sea glass. Absolutely gorgeous. So because I know it works in Aquacast, I went for the Resin-Crete green pigment. Now this stuff is really pigmented, and usually you'd only need a couple of drops, but I'd forgotten to shake the bottle. So after giving it a little bit of a mix and the bottle a bit of a shake, I then added another couple of drops just to give me the colour that I wanted. And look at the difference. This colour is absolutely stunning. So I kept mixing until I was happy with the colour, and then it was time to pour. I was so excited. I was just hoping upon all hopes that there wasn't going to be any leakages. So I have popped this mould into some weighted cups. Because I reuse my cups, I had a few spare with a fair bit of resin in the bottom, and that tends to be enough to keep this mould weighted down and level enough for me to be able to pour the Aquacast into it. The problem is with this silicone is that because of the way you do the mould, you're always working the wrong way round and there's never a proper square base at the bottom, so you have to put it in a cup of some sort. And then I left this to cure for a good hour and a half because of its depth. So after waiting that time, it was then ready to demould, and look, his little toes and his little fingers. Even the way he was holding his fingers in that zen-like state has even come out. I haven't had any problems with the bits that I cut, apart from the fact that there was one finger missing from the frog, but you can't really tell that. But how cute is he? So now I wanted to turn him into a Halloween themed frog. So we're going to be adding a couple of little bits to make him one. So for this I've got the trusty witch's hat and the witch's brooms. You can get these miniature bits from anywhere like Temu, Shein, Amazon even. I will pop the links in the description as always. I did in fact have to take this one off one of the witch bears from yesterday's video because I'd run out of the little witch's hats and got some more on the way. So after popping some super glue all around the rim of this hat and a little bit onto his head and then holding the hat on just to keep it in place until it's fully dry. Now this super glue I'm using dries within minutes. I'm just doing the same with the witch's broom. I'm popping a little bit where I want it and then a little bit on the broom and then attaching the two and just holding that in place until that's cured. I was really pleased with the way he was looking. So now I just wanted to finish him off by doing the little blacks of his eyes, which I had to do it. I ruined. I ended up using this thicker black marker and yeah, it just went outside of the line slightly. But it is what it is. I mean, when have you known any of my videos to go 100% to plan? Thought so far this one was going quite well. So after I'd finished colouring his eyes in, here he was, all finished. I think he looks really cute. I can't wait to use him in resin. So now on to the next bit of the project, and these bits all do fit together, so please bear with me. So for this one I've just popped some epoxy resin into the bottom of a frog, and then I'm using the Let's Resin alcohol inks just to drop a few drops all over. I also used the white sinker just to go on top of the colours, just to give it some sort of depth. And then I waited until it got to that sticky stage. Once it was at that sticky stage, I decided that I wanted to add some bubble wrap to it. Now come on, everybody loved bubble wrap as a kid. Used to spend hours popping it. So I cut it down to size and then just placed it on top of the semi-cured resin. I mean, you can see this is quite thick and gloopy. But this is the best stage to pop anything like this into one of these frogs. So like I said, I cut it down to size and just placed it on the top, giving it a little push along the way so that it left the indents once I took the bubble wrap off. And then I left this to fully cure. Now because I'd put it in my curing machine and I'd left it for a good few hours, this was a bit difficult to pull out, but I did eventually manage to get all of the bubble wrap off this frog. And I was really impressed with the way it was looking. I only hoped that it looked the same from the other side. So after a bit of time pulling and tugging, I eventually managed to get it all out. And look, you can see where all the bubbles are. So I'm just pouring a layer of white resin onto the top of this frog. At this point I'm thinking to myself, let's see how many products we can fit into one video. So for this one I'm using the titanium white from Just For You online, which is now Apex Resin. Unfortunately they don't do this pigment anymore, but yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm just giving it a bit of a mix because it's been sat for a couple of weeks, and then I'm wiping the side of my stick and just dipping that in my resin and giving that a good mix. Whenever I'm using pigment pastes, I do like to take my stick out after halfway, give my stick a bit of a wipe with a baby wipe, and then finish off mixing, purely because this prevents any unmixed paste which is left on the stick, because as you can see there's absolutely loads being left in your resin, and then you're being left with all streaky marks and uncured paste in your piece, which, like I've said before, nobody wants that. So while I'm filling this frog up, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Froggy Friday crew. That's Lisa from The Garage, Gert of Gert Creates, Lula from Nerd Goblin Art, Kaz from Dragon's Cave, and Tim the Bass Resonator. So back to the frog. After filling him up, I left him to cure overnight. Now on to the next part. Now, like I keep saying, trust the process because they all do link in together. Now this is getting ready to use the Rapido. Now I am procrastinating just a little bit because this Rapido cures in under 3 minutes. I mean, come on, you get 2 minutes stirring and 45 seconds to pour. Now I did in fact buy this myself, But like I said before, ELECHEM did send me the paste to try, but I'm under no obligation to say I like them unless I really do, which, as it happens, they are absolutely stunning colours and they mix into this Rapido brilliantly. This and in the new high build that they've just brought out, which there will be a video on that tomorrow for the Friendship Express. Like I say, I was panicking a little bit over using this because one, I know how clumsy I am, and two, I've never worked with anything with that short a work time before. I mean, don't get me wrong, you had to have a master's degree just to get into the bottle. Sealed for your safety. It didn't do much for my safety as I nearly cut myself 4 times trying to get into it. But eventually, after managing to get into the lid, I'm pouring just a little bit to start with because I haven't got a clue what I'm working with. So I didn't want to waste too much. So I'm pouring 25 grams of each. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. And they suggest, because of the quick curing time, that whenever you're adding pigments, to add the pigments to part A first, give that a good mix and then add part B. It also does state that pigments that are water-based are no good for this product. Not that I'm prepared to try that theory. The problem is that this product is that new that I couldn't find one video apart from the one on ELECHEM's website using it. So I didn't even have any guidance. So I'm opening part B, and again there's some hesitation, and I'm just pouring that in, again 25 grams. The instructions say to then mix for 2 minutes, and then you've got 30 to 45 seconds before it starts to cure. And boy, they're not wrong with that. Now that's some quick work time. Even though this liquid's quite brown looking, I'm not quite sure what colour it is without the tint. I might have to try it. So I'm giving this a good mix for the stated 2 minutes. And I could feel it getting hot in my hand. And I mean, it was getting warm really quite quickly. And I'm panicking, thinking, what do I do? How do I pour it? What if it completely cures? Because I really wasn't expecting what happened. So I had 2 cameras set up because I had a feeling that I was going to need them. So after 2 minutes of mixing, so I have put this on hyperspeed for you because I am just literally mixing it for exactly 1 minute 45 seconds, and then I decided to pour. So it was still a little bit runny at this point. Now bearing in mind this is no editing, no nothing, this is straight real time. And my idea was to put the frog floating, technically, because that's how quick this stuff cures. So you can see I'm just pouring it on, and because it's still a little runny, I don't want to waste it all. And then I continue to pour. It's starting to get a little bit thicker now, so I'm umming and ahhing what to do with the frog. And then look, it goes literally from this to fully cured, and I cannot get it out of the cup. That is fully cured. I mean, this is crazy stuff. So I've literally had to take it out in one big lump because I genuinely had no other option. So I decided to just whack this on the side and hope for the best. So I just held it in place for, and you can see here, literally like a minute and a half. And this thing is solid, and I mean solid. I could not believe it. This is not for the faint-hearted, but I am loving the stuff, honestly. And those pigments, they are absolutely gorgeous. So I want to thank ELI-CHEM for sending me them because they are brilliant. And there is a video tomorrow displaying more of them. But yeah, this stuff is just absolutely crazy. Off the charts, mental, heart failure stuff. You thought polyurethane was quick? It's got nothing on this. And after holding it in place for a few seconds, it's literally cured solid. I mean, the heat generated off this thing is unreal. I mean, this is a couple of minutes afterwards and I can literally feel the heat practically burning my hand. It's really, really warm. So this stuff works on a crazy exothermic reaction. Well, anyway, this is what we ended up with. Not quite what I was hoping for, But you know what? It's pretty damn cool. I had to have another go, so I did mix a little bit more up, and here are the results of that. So as you can see, this one's a little bit better, and this stuff is really, really cool. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. So I'll leave you with some glamour shots. I've been Tony from Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts. Stay safe, happy crafting, and bye for now.